You got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
You are now tuned in to the multi-nominated, award-winning Game Spitting Chronicles podcast, hosted by the homie Cuzzo. You BZ? It's the Chronicles podcast. 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 It's the Chronicles podcast.
What up, y'all? This is your boy Cuzzo, and we are back for the Chronicles, baby. How is everybody? How are you guys doing? Did you have a good week? Did you have a productive week? Did you get things accomplished that you wanted to get accomplished? Or did you just bullshit your way through? Oh, yeah. It is officially political pull-up season, is it not? We got Roland Martin getting pulled up on. We got Van Jones getting pulled up on. But we've got to start with Roland Martin. We've got to. Roland Martin was talking greasy about a content creator, Jamal Green. And of course, Jamal Green had to pull up. He pulled up on Roland at the DNC. Let's go. Now, this is an audio podcast, but I'll play the audio. There is video out there. You can look it up, but let's check out the audio, you know? Audio is a beautiful thing, too.
Oh, give me 1 second. No, ain't no. I gave you a number. I gave you a number. Yesterday, you tweeted about me. You tweeted, you called me dumb.
And Roland called security. Let's go. But Jamal Green gave his explanation of why he pulled up. So we have to let him explain the pull up.
People need to know the real narrative and the facts. Number one, Roland Martin is the aggressor here. He came after me publicly. He was paid to do so. I was on Twitter talking about how we need to be critical of these campaigns and make sure that we get policies so that when whoever become president, they don't forget about us. Roland Martin called me stupid, dumb, an idiot, and a fool on his show. I never tweeted at Roland Martin. I never talked about Roland Martin at all. He came to my Twitter page quoting my tweets to call me stupid. And then he did a show about me and he called me a fool. Now, what I did was I went to an event that he was at today. And I went to ask for a conversation. My arms were folded. I was not being aggressive. And he kept pushing it off, kept trying to leave and not have a conversation with me. And you saw what happened on this video. This, guys, we cannot stand for. We cannot stand for voices to continue to be stumped on because they don't agree with you. I don't have to agree with Roland Martin to be smart. I can have my own views. I'm a grown man. And there's no reason why this man twice his age should be publicly calling me stupid, dumb, and a fool. But when I approach him in public, he has nothing to say to me. You got to do better. And we got to do better to stop supporting these guys who are disrespecting the voices who are doing the actual work.
Uh-oh, he's cooking. You see, this is part of the problem. When you have someone like Roland Martin's used to being on TV. He's used to getting his chili, as you have it. The youngsters call it chili now, you dig? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's what I said. He's used to getting it that way. But the problem is when you get so detached from being a media personality and you don't realize that you have to go in public sometimes, that's where it gets sticky. A lot of people are used to just being commentators on these platforms like CNN, MSNBC, NBC, and they don't go nowhere. They don't go and have to be in public and have to actually have dialogue. They just go about it how they go about it. Damn shame. Yeah. You see, this is the problem. The problem is we have motherfuckers who don't want to really be out there having conversations with people, but they want to go and throw rocks and hide their hand. You can't do that. This isn't the way to go about it. That's not the way to conduct business. You got these guys like Roland Martin and Van Jones, and they do these things and they don't understand the repercussions that can happen. Just like Vivek and Van Jones. Let's get into that. What happened between them?
So we got death threats. We got death threats after the thing you said. So that's Van Jones for you.
So on air, I actually don't swear. I did it very intentionally that one time, and I want you to just know about it because I think it's important. So you were on air and you said that he's a demagogue. He's dangerous. He's going to be around for 50 years, long after Donald Trump's gone. The first time in the campaign, we get a death threat of a man who wants to show up in New Hampshire. Thankfully, the police intervened, got it. The next day, back-to-back days. My wife's scared enough. The next day, we wake up. It's 3 a.m. We get a call from him. He's my security guard saying, thank God you picked up because we just got a call that somebody showed up at their house and has 4 dead bodies out. So that's within 48 hours. And I'm not going to attribute that to your comment because whatever it is. But for our family, you know what? Publicly, I didn't do it, but for our family, yeah, it pissed us the heck off, actually. And so the reality is, I don't try to engage in rhetoric that gets other people in danger of bodily harm. But I do think that if somebody's going to, even if you didn't intend to provoke that kind of ire on my family, yeah, in that week it landed with me. Now, at the same time, am I going to...
Test.
Do I want to set a good example for people in this country of what discourse looks like? I do. And in the heat of a presidential campaign, and I've been open about it since I left the campaign as well, my competitive spirits, sometimes stop us from being able to have the level of discourse we want. And I think you were wrongfully pushed out of the White House for your comments around 9/11, way back when as well. They were misconstrued, exactly. So what I will tell you is this.
Call yourself.
Yep. So I just wanted you to know that backdrop. That's my personal song. Don't give it to anybody else.
I will call you in a couple of days and I'll apologize to your wife.
Okay, well, we don't need to do any of this on air.
But I will call your wife and apologize.
And you know what we can do is we can turn the page and maybe have a chapter to demonstrate what actual good discourse looks like in this country. And that's not just on you, that's on me as well. Okay, that's on two of us.
I'm really sorry.
Hey, it's classy of you to say so, and I hope we can build a friendship. I really mean that. Please do. Okay? Thank you. Take care.
You see, that's what good discourse is supposed to look like. Van Jones offered to call this man and apologize to his wife. Let's go. Oh, the pull-up is real. The pull-up is real. The political pull-up is real, and the season is now. It's time. In Roland Martin's case, Roland's been running around for weeks talking crazy. At the NABJ thing with Trump there, he was in the crowd yelling, hollering, bouncing up and down and shit. He talked to I believe it was an Indian reporter there, asking him what their credentials were, talking crazy. Roland Martin's been talking crazy for fucking weeks. And in Van Jones' case, Van Jones has a problem of being on CNN and saying things, crying, whether or not you believe it's real or fake, whatever. But he's doing a lot of what I believe is over-exaggeration of his emotions. Because Van Jones, I can tell you as a black man, if you really felt that way, as passionate as you feel that you are when you're anti-Trump, even though I really don't think you feel that way about Trump, if you were that passionate, why aren't you that passionate about holding Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to the fire? I mean, from the economy to the border to everything, it's a shit show. But when you make comments about other people in the space or content creators, politicians, or just even regular people on the street, you must be prepared for the pull-up. And I will say, if I've ever offended anyone on this podcast, I apologize. I know you guys were like, what? That's incredible. That's why I paused and held it in. You know? But yeah, I'm not going to lie. I talk fucking crazy on this podcast. That's what you guys love. That's what you guys love. That's what you guys listen for. When I sit and I look and, I take a look at my numbers and go across everything, and I have a good look and a good vantage point, and I see that, from China to Canada, Hong Kong, Spain, the United Kingdom, Bangladesh, Romania, the Netherlands, France, Singapore, Poland, Czech Republic, Mexico, Japan. All these places are listening to the Chronicles. I talk fucking crazy. I do. So if it's so entertaining that motherfuckers in other countries enjoy it, it is what it is. But in me apologizing, I have to say too that I know somebody could pull up upset about something I say, and I have to be prepared to tell them, you know what? Depending on the mood I'm in, because I am Cuzzo, of course, but either, hey man, you know what? You're right. I might have said something out of pocket. Let's sit down and have a conversation. Or I could just simply say, fuck you, what's happening? I mean, I don't want you guys to think that you guys could just pull up and it could just go the way you want it to go. No, sometimes I still got that shit in me, you dig? Oh, yeah. You dig? Absolutely. Now, I care about my well-being. So don't think that I'm not the kind of motherfucker that won't defend myself or is cautious about putting hands on a motherfucker in public. I was born and raised in Cali, of course. And anybody that's associated with my brand, The Chronicles, I take a fade for them too. If I'm somewhere and we're at an event or a charity or something and or wherever, and I'm with Twan or OG Pentagon Frank, for instance, and somebody comes at him, I might be the first person to take off. Just because of being around, I know those gentlemen's character, and I wouldn't put them in harm's way. But if harm were to come their way, I feel it's my duty to get it popping for my homeboys. But I am still just I am still just a content creator. Oh yeah. That's it. Merely. But I just wanted to say that because Roland, you're not built like that, Roland. Just let it go. Van Jones, you too. I think that's the second or third time Van Jones has got caught slipping like that. So y'all gotta stop the bullshit, man. Nobody is beyond the political pull-up. Nobody's above that standard, above that marker, you know? But did you guys see the DNC? Did you see the DNC? What did you think? Was it not a week of shenanigans and lies? Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. Now, you can't make this up. The DNC sold a lot of hopium, I say. How is this supposed to work? Were we just supposed to go this whole week, and not talk about crime, not talk about policy? They wanted to Michelle Obama and Barack Obama, but they talked about hope. Like what? Like, motherfucker, this isn't 10, 15 years ago. Fuck are you talking about? You know? Yeah. They're talking about crime being down, yet a Texas delegate was in Chicago for the Democratic National Convention, and they were robbed at gunpoint Wednesday morning. You can't make this up. You can't make it up. A delegate was robbed at gunpoint in Chicago. We're at a turning point, are we not? How do we reconcile this? Kamala had her speech. It was about 37 minutes, I believe. Didn't touch on policy. When are we going to talk policy? When is that going to be at the forefront of what people want? Because when you go to her website, Kamala Harris, we got to say it right. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. When we go to the website, We see donation buttons. You can meet Kamala, and it tells you about her. It tells you about Tim Walz. But nothing to this day, I'm looking, and there's nothing on this website about fucking policy. I heard a lot of hopium from Michelle Obama, from Kamala Harris, from Obama, from celebrities. We keep talking like Kamala Harris isn't in the White House now. We keep hearing when she gets in. Trump is not the incumbent. Biden and Kamala are the incumbents. I kept saying that to myself over and over and over again. Like, why are we acting like Kamala's not in office now? How is this supposed to work? Then the economic policy, the couple things that she wanted to do that she put out before the Democratic National Convention have been getting ripped apart left and fucking right. You can't make it up. One of the policies, they tried to pin Kamala down and have her explain, okay, what is this policy about? Somebody asked her, how do you plan on paying for this? Where's this money going to come from? Because nothing is free. When we talk about child care credits, when we talk about $25,000 towards a household, which I'll get to in a minute. Once again, we talked about this stuff a little bit last week, but folks, it's 2024. Nothing is free. If you guys think that all these handouts and these goodies don't cost anything, you're a fucking fool. Yeah. Fucking fool. Yeah. But when she was questioned on it, and you guys can look this up, but like I said, I love to have the audio. When you guys look this up online, always pay attention to Tim Walz's wife, because her facial expressions explain exactly what the fuck's going on every moment of it. I swear. You can't make this shit up. But let's hear her explain how this shit's going to get paid for. And let's hear the word salad that comes afterwards.
You unveiled some economic policies last week.
Yeah.
Can you explain how you're going to pay for those? And can you give us a sense of what other policies you want to unveil going forward?
Sure. Well, I mean, you just look at it in terms of what we are talking about, for example, around children and the child tax credit and extending the EITC. It's at $6,000 for the first year of a child's life. The return on that investment in terms of what that will do and what it will pay for will be tremendous. We've seen it when we did it in the first year of our administration. We reduced child poverty by over 50%. So that's a lot of the work. And then what we're doing in terms of the tax credits, we know that there's a great return on that investment. And when we increase home ownership in America, what that means in terms of increasing the tax base, not to mention property tax base, what that does to fund schools, again, return on investment. I think it's a mistake for any person who talks about public policy to not critically evaluate how you measure the return on investment. When you are strengthening neighborhoods, strengthening communities, and in particular the economy of those communities, and investing in a broad-based economy, everybody benefits, and it pays for itself.
She didn't answer a motherfucking thing. Jesus. Yeah. That didn't answer a motherfucking thing. You didn't leave that audio saying, I feel better about the economic plan and the things she wants to do with the child tax credit and the $25,000 towards the home. You didn't feel that. It felt like she was just going around and around and around and around, and Tim Walz was holding his wife standing behind her, and he was just looking like he didn't know what the fuck was going on either. Damn shame. But when we talk about these policies, right, we have to understand that more comes with it. When we talk about price gouging and when we talk about real estate and all that, other stuff comes with it. It's not just a one and done type thing. The money has to come from somewhere. Money does not just roll out of thin air. That's not the way it works. But I like to get down to the nitty-gritty with stuff. So we are going to sit up here and talk about this plan that she has. Well, part of the plans. We're going to talk about it. We're going to hear what Mr. Cardone has to say first before we do a deep dive at another person with real estate experience. And then I'm going to discuss it a little bit. I'm tongue-tied today, huh? Jesus. Oh, yeah. You know. Because I know for some of y'all to listen to this, I know some of my friends, you know, the homies don't understand a lot of this. So I like to try to help break this down. So let's get to it.
And Kamala Harris also makes no mention of the crippling interest rates, how high they are. The current average rate on a 30-year fixed mortgage is nearly 6.5%. That is up 133% since the Biden-Harris administration took over. CEO of Cardone Ventures, Grant Cardone, joins us now. Good morning, Grant.
Hey, good morning to you.
Good morning. How will we afford this? $25,000 if you're a first-time homeowner. We're going to pay for all illegals that come across our border, their health care. We're going to make everyone pay into this, into a single system health care. How will we afford this? Plus, they're paying for college tuition.
Yeah, Ainsley, look, Kamala Harris is either financially illiterate or she believes her audience is. This is called come on marketing. The $25,000 credit is a come on. It will not happen. The $6,000 child credit requires you to have 2 kids in the same year. That's a come on. The 4 million homes that she came out with yesterday in 4 years is absolutely impossible in this country. And to control prices is a come on. This is a marketing strategy, a gimmick where there's a promise of an offer that cannot be delivered at scale. It's typically used as a bait and switch, some kind of offer that exaggerates, that has hidden costs, exaggerated claims. And Kamala Harris is the come on queen now. That should be her new title.
What's required for a first-time homeowner? I know you told our producers earlier that it takes a lot more than $25,000.
Yeah, look, $25,000 credits are already being delivered by builders, by the way. So the government doesn't need to do this. The builder is willing to do it today. But even if you could do that, the average loan today is over $400,000. The average cost of a home is $440,000. So even if you gave a credit,
that's correct.
The first-time home buyer does not have the down payment. $32,000 on average this year is the down payment, much less the ability to maintain the house, to take care of the insurance, which could be as high as $1,000 a month, the HOA fees, and the property taxes. So while she says she'll give $25,000 away, it's like the car dealer that says, look, the payments are going to be $90 a month and no money down, but you get there and you leave with a $500 or $600 payment. It's impossible to deliver, like the American Rescue Plan and the Inflation Reduction Act that delivered nothing to this country. It was $3.2 trillion. That could have built 8 million homes, or it could have provided 48 million Black households with $300,000 in cash. But that didn't happen either.
Grant, thank you so much for giving us your perspective. We appreciate you waking up early for us.
Yeah, you got it. Thank you, Angie.
Thank you. Have a good one.
There you go. Oh, but we're not done yet. We're going to go to another one.
The Kamala Harris-Tim Walz campaign is unveiling a housing plan today. As a housing expert, someone who's been in the business for 24 years, owns my own firm, and has been heavily involved in policy issues at all levels of government, I felt obligated to bring y'all some viewpoint on what's going to be rolled out, especially since I seriously doubt that the National Association of Realtors is going to make commentary on a presidential campaign's policy. The first item you're going to see talked about is a wonderful plan to call for the construction of 3 million new housing units. Now, that does sound good, and I agree that it's good to have conversation about the fact that our supply is the problem, not so much demand. However, couched in that wonderful little headline is a real problem, friends, because their goal is to have the federal government take over zoning. Zoning should only be under local control. Cabarrus County, North Carolina, where I am, is wildly different than Mecklenburg County right next door. And frankly, we don't have the foggiest idea what's best for Syracuse, New York, or Kansas City, Missouri, or
That's
even
correct.
Kansas City, Kansas. There is no universal housing market. There is no universal housing plan.
She's cooking.
If the federal government gets to take over zoning, friends, here's what that looks like. That means that you may have a parcel of land that you would like to develop, and the federal government says yes or no as to what you can do. I don't like giving the federal government any control when this country was built to make sure that every zip code could have its own personality and its own leadership. So yes, we need new housing, but not at the expense of local controls. The second thing being proposed is, of course, rent control. And that sounds good if you're in a rental and you feel like you're paying too much. Friends, the way that you solve the high cost of rent is to add more rental units, but not rental units by hedge funds, which has been the plan for the last few years. What we need are more mom and pop investors that are able to make local decisions about zoning and local decisions about their land so they can provide more units. When you put in rent controls, that caps what I as a landlord can charge for rent. That sounds okay if you're the consumer, but friends, it's been tried in all kinds of markets, all kinds of cities, and it does not work because as an investor, I'm not going to put my money into something where I can't control the market conditions. I mean, I can never control market conditions, but I can't respond to market conditions. Pay attention. Every city that has rent controls loses rental units. What happens when you lose units? That's right. You have another supply issue. This is not good. It is terrible. And by the way, if you're a tenant, you can get trapped in your unit because let's just say you and your family have a large rent-controlled unit, and then those wonderful children grow up and move away. I feel you. Well, now you're in this giant unit, but you can't afford to move because you're trapped by your low rental cost. Meanwhile, a young family down the hall wants to move into your larger unit, but they can't because they're trapped too, and they're just out of space. It is not a good way to control a market. Rent controls are bad. What we should have instead are better local zoning decisions. Now, the third thing in this plan is that there's going to be an offer of free money, down payment assistance, help those first-time buyers get in a house. I love down payment assistance, especially when it's done by tax credits, when it's done by bond money approved by voters. Y'all, if the federal government wants to hand people money for buying houses, that's what causes inflation. How is it going to be that we can get y'all educated on this? Every time the government starts printing money, as young people say, it goes brrr. When the Fed prints money, that causes inflation. And so when you add $25,000 in free money to a house, you just drove the cost up by $25,000. Yep. I just wish that when any political person rolls out a housing plan, they talk to some of us in housing first. Friends, these decisions might sound big picture. You might not be interested in housing policy, but what you need to know is that these decisions will impact you, your decisions in your pocketbook, so vote accordingly.
All right, so we just heard from two people, and now I'm going to give you my take on it. For the homies and for the listeners, for some of you guys that own a home, you might know some of this. For those of you that are thinking about buying a home, who would like to one day own a home, I'm going to use Alaska because I live in Alaska, in California because I was born and raised in California, and I love California. I have family there, friends there. Let's get down to the brass tacks, as they say, you dig? The average price of a home that I'm looking at right now in Alaska, there's conflicting. Last year, it looks like it says $365,000, which was a 1.3 increase from the previous year. It looks like it says 2024, so that's this year. So it's a 1.3 increase from last year. But another website says the average price for a home in Alaska is $430,000. That's Alaska. Now, if we pan over to California, it says the average price of a home on one website, Zillow. A lot of people, if you deal with real estate, I deal with real estate. I'm licensed, of course. A lot of people are familiar with Zillow because a lot of people list homes through Zillow. A lot of potential buyers go through a website like Zillow to look at homes and schedule setups to go look at, to view the home and things of that nature. The average price on Zillow in California for a home is $784,000, almost, we could just round up to $785,000. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Now think about this. So another portion said the average price of a home in California is almost $807,000. So you can range anywhere from $785,000 to $810,000 just in California. The annual maintenance costs are projected to be 1 to 4% of the home's value. Now, mind you, depending on what kind of condition you purchase the home in, maintenance could be a yearly thing. Of course, depending how old your roof is, your roof might need to be replaced. If it's that time, depending on the style where you live, you can kind of stretch it. But roofs have a lifeline. Roofs have an expiration date. A lot of things, siding, paint, these things have an expiration date. Property taxes, on average in California, it's about $6,500 per year on average for property taxes. Homeowners insurance, $1,225 for $250,000 in dwelling coverage. And remember, we've talked about on the Chronicles previously over a month ago that a lot of insurance companies are pulling out of California, and I believe State Farm, I don't have it in front of me because it was weeks ago, but State Farm is actually sending notice to the homeowners that they're raising the costs. It's crazy. They're shooting those prices up. Now, what Kamala is proposing, a $25,000 for first-time home buyers, it looks good on face value But like Cardone said, a lot of builders do offer that credit anyway. You don't need the federal government to do that. A lot of builders will offer that credit or some type of credit for it. Now, when you sit up and give a credit of $25,000 or down payment assistance, whatever you want to call it, that is going to make someone selling their home boost their property by $25,000. They're going to raise the value by $25,000. They want to make that portion up. There's nothing wrong with wanting to make that portion up. You value your home however you want to value it. It's up to the consumer or the potential homeowner, home buyer, to buy at your price, what you're selling your home at. I could sit up here and try to sell a home that's worth $200,000 for $500,000. It's not up to me to determine the value of the home. The buyer determines the value of the home. The market dictates what something's worth. And that's with a lot of things in life. If you think your home is valued at $500,000 and then you have a home inspector come out and an appraiser come out and they take a look at everything and say, it's worth $350,000. And you say, no, I want $500,000. You can list it. You can get an agent and list it at $500,000, but that doesn't mean you're going to get $500,000. You might end up closing at $275,000. But regardless, that's going to raise the price. They're going to just tack that up. So if my home is valued, if I'm valuing it at, let's just say $375,000, I'm now putting it on the market at $400,000. And mind you, the thing of the $25,000 for first-time home buyers, that still doesn't do anything to help you out with homeowners insurance. That doesn't do anything to help you out with property taxes, your yearly maintenance on the house. If you live in an HOA, homeowners fees or condo fees, if it's a condominium, none of that money helps towards those. All of that comes into play when it comes to becoming a homeowner. So is she talking out of her ass? What does she do when somebody who actually knows about homes in the housing market asks her these kind of questions? You're helping first-time home buyers get into a home, but that still doesn't do anything too. Because another thing that they don't tell you, the banks really determine whether you get the home or not. You can have $25,000 all day, but let's just say nobody raises their home value by $25,000. And a first-time home buyer has $25,000 from whatever Kamala is trying to do. The bank is still the ultimate determination on whether or not you get that home. It's dependent on your credit score, your credit history, how much money that you're going to have down. You're still going to have to put a large portion down, even with $25,000. If you're looking at a home, let's just say in California, where you have to sit up here and put a large amount down. If the average cost of a home is $800,000, you're going to need more than $25,000. We can go on and on and on about this. And that's not even including in California the other stuff that I just talked about. I got a homeboy who was, looking at some point purchase a home in California. And I told him, I said, I don't know if that's something you want to do. I said it. I said, you might want to wait until the market comes down. Even with a VA loan, it's zero down on a home that California, the homes average between, we'll even give it a little bit of points here. So let's just say the homes average between $700,000 and $810,000. That's a hell of a fucking mortgage payment before you get to the insurance, the property taxes, the maintenance costs, all of that. Your closing, all that. That's a hell of a amount of money to come out of pocket. So that's just the housing portion of what she's talking about. That's just the $25,000 on that. Just on that portion. Then she talked about wanting to actually, what was it? She was trying to price gouging. I believe she was trying to say gauging, but she said gouging, I believe, when she talked about it. We got to take it to John Taffert. Some of you guys, if you're familiar with John Taffert, he was on the show Bar Rescue, where he went across the country saving restaurants that were about to go belly up because they were misusing money. They weren't bringing in enough customers to turn a profit, these things like that. Let's hear what John Taffert has to say.
Businesses are not really happy with Kamala Harris's price-fixing plan. They say it'll just make problems worse. Bar rescue guy John Taffer joins me now. John, welcome back. We've heard from various industries, and they all told us, look, price controls don't work. All right, what about the restaurant business? You're in it. What happens?
Oh, Stuart, it's a nightmare. Good to be back, by the way. Think of a hamburger, Stuart. First of all, there's thousands of different hamburgers a restaurant can buy. There's prime, there's choice, there's different shapes, different sizes, there's filet mignon, there's prime rib, every blend, every type you can think about. So she has to send an analyst in to price every type of hamburger. Then the rancher's costs can't go up, Stuart. His price for feed, electronics, must remain the same so he can sell it to the processing plant. Then the processing plant's costs can't go up. They have to stay exactly the same. Fuel, equipment, transportation, labor. Then when it goes to the distributor, his costs can't go up. Fuel, distribution, union, all the other costs associated with his business. Then the restaurant gets the hamburger in a price-controlled way. Now I have a question, Stuart. What about the bun? What about the tomato? What about the lettuce? What about the ketchup? What happens then? I mean, it becomes absurd. You cannot accomplish this. And when we look at past countries that have done it, Stuart, shortages happen. If the bun guy can't make money, he stops making buns. So the supply side impact is massive. It's an absurd premise. The fact that it's being presented as a policy is as absurd as the premise itself.
Okay, next case. Harris wants to raise the corporate tax rate from 21 to 28%. What would that do to your business?
Well, Stuart, that's taking 7% of the profits that we make out of our pockets. Those dollars are used for upgrades, for remodeling, for employee raises, for systems, for marketing, research and development, all of these things. A communist country, China, is 3% lower than us. So two things, Stuart. From the business standpoint, of course, it's a disaster. We're going to see reductions in payroll, reductions in other ways, price increases, things to offset that impact. From an American standpoint, how do we compete in a global marketplace when our companies are paying a higher tax rate than our largest competitor that is a communist government, and they're 3 points lower? Stuart, it destroys the business on a local basis, and it weakens America's economy on a global basis. These are policies that make no sense. Stuart, when you start to put these things together, words like catastrophe appear. And that's the most horrifying of all. These decisions can't be made on an isolated basis. They have to be made on a collective basis that puts us on a plan to move forward.
Or anti-business socialism. That's what I'll call it.
But ultimately, the problem is, I don't think that they understand what they're trying to do. Grocery stores, for instance, you have to think of how it affects them, because their margins they don't have great margins at grocery stores. Grocery stores are in direct competition with online mom and pops. The bigger chains are in competition with everybody. The smaller chains, online, everything. The smaller chains are in competition with the bigger chains. Everybody's goal is to somewhat turn a profit, and that profit has to somehow do things like, of course, pay your workers. Like he said, research and development, see how we can actually improve the business model. Things like upgrades to the store, maintenance to a store. If you have a fucking mom and pop grocery store, for instance, and the fucking roof collapses, caves in, that money's got to come from somewhere. I believe, like, I get it. I think people should make a fair wage. I think minimum wage, as far as fast food and everything, I think that shouldn't be $20 an hour. I believe that some jobs are just entry-level jobs that aren't meant to be worked for a long period of time as a means to live. I think some jobs are meant to just be, hey, this is an entry-level first job, a kid in high school job. But when you get into the thing of like California did and wanting to pay, a certain amount for a minimum wage, and now you see businesses leaving California because the prices go up, shit costs. When the prices go up and the hours get shorter, people get let go, and then the people that remain, their hours are shorter. That money has to come from somewhere. Because all of these things come into play. When you go to a restaurant to sit down and eat a steak, there's a process that has to happen for that steak to even make it cooked on your plate. The multiple places that steak has to come to you, everybody wants to get paid. Everybody's goal is to get paid. They have to make their money. If they can't make their money, they either A, it becomes more scarce, or B, they stop dealing with that particular product altogether. But this is where we're at so far with her economic plans that she was discussing. She didn't mention any of this shit at the DNC, and I think it's because people were giving a lot of blowback to it. I think that's why, personally. That's my belief. Oh, yeah. I think she got a lot of blowback. I think people are like, you might want to figure this one out. I mean, Senator Elizabeth Warren tried to go on a show and explain it, and the guy is sitting here trying to explain something to her, and she doesn't even want to hear it. She's just going off her own tangent. Make it make sense.
I can paint you a picture of how that would work and how it's worked in the past, where we've tried to artificially hold prices down. Competition doesn't come in. People don't, like, if beef is too high, People don't move the chicken. The competitors don't come in to undercut where the beef prices are. Nothing works when you try to artificially control prices. It's just a supply and demand issue. It's a flawed idea.
So did you have a question here?
Yes. Why would you propose a flawed idea when the real problem,
so let me
if you
ask
really
the
want to
question.
help the middle class, if you really sincerely want to help people having trouble at the grocery store, it's not price gouging that's the issue. And if you look at it seriously and really want to help them, then let's do something about it together.
And this is CNBC saying this. But let's get back to it.
I understand if you want to do a lecture about this, but let's just start with where have you been for the last 30 years as 36 states have price gouging laws, and they have used them effectively. States like Texas and Florida, they've used price gouging laws. Price gouging laws are not price control. Price gouging laws are to say, sometimes markets go off the rails. And when they do, we need some ways to get them back on the rails. We need some curbs on that behavior. So, for example, we watched in the pandemic how prices went up for a whole lot of reasons. They went up partly because we had supply chain kinks. We had problems because of the war in Ukraine that cut supplies of certain commodities. And one of the things that happened as a result of that is there were corporations that said, whoa, now that we have inflation, now that prices are up overall, this is a great opportunity for us to raise prices, not just in passing along costs, but to go way, way, way above that. And how do we know that it was way, way above just passing along costs? Look at what happened to their profit margins. If they'd just been passing along costs, profit margins would have stayed about the same. But for some industries, some companies, profit margins shot up. And do you know where they shot up most often? It was in companies or in industries where there was a lot of concentration, a lot of market power, places where the market is not functioning competitively. So you end up with someone, you remember we all talked about egg prices. You end up with something like this giant egg producer, Cal-Maine. And Cal-Maine raises the price of eggs. Their profit margins increase by 718%. That's not just passing along costs.
Senator,
and that is a time
that's sophistry. Your example on Kraft. Your example on Kraft is even worse.
You finished first. In any of the states around the country that already have price gouging laws in place.
Can I tell you why that those are fallacious and misleading at best? And your Kraft analogy is even. Why can't I tell you? Please let me tell you. Kraft, you say, was 440% profit increase. The example you used, the prior quarter from the year before, they had a charge of $1.3 billion, an accounting change which wiped out profits. Then they earned what they normally.
Look at the
let
data.
me finish now. They earned.
You didn't let me finish. Look at the data. Come on. We have economic study now after economic study.
This is the way it always goes.
When there is more concentration,
40 million eggs were destroyed because of avian flu.
When there is more concentration in an industry, we have seen much greater increases in
Do you attribute the inflation?
Margins.
That's what you think we need to do to solve it?
They're not random. They are not random one-offs. It is part of the problem when you've got companies that are gouging consumers on prices. Consumers need to know they've got somebody on their side.
Senator,
and
listen, we're trying to help. We're trying to actually do.
Where are you in the 37 states that currently have price gouging laws?
Just quickly on that point, Senator Warren,
this
is Kelly here. Can I just clarify how this would work?
This is the way you never lose an argument because no one can ever say anything back to you, Senator.
The state price gouging laws take they
Damn shame. Ridiculous. But we are, and then we get back to the DNC now. None of these policies were even mentioned, of course, because the backlash of them. All we talked about was hope. We talked about how the rich, once again, need to pay their fair share. Why do we keep talking about that? If you want the rich to pay their fair share, go tell them that, because they're sitting up at the fucking top and they're giving all the money to these candidates in these campaigns and telling them damn near what to think and say. The DNC last week, did you know a penthouse suite at the DNC to watch the convention was $500,000? A club level suite was $1 to $1.5 million. A lower level suite was $2.5 million. And a 2 lower level suites, 2 of them, were $5 million. You can't make this shit up. Yeah. Yeah. But they want you to believe that they're for the working class. They're for the people that are doing bad in this country right now. Then why do you have all these donors backing you? With politics, it's always follow the money, and that's on Republican and Democratic sides. You've got to follow the money. All these candidates are beholden to the people that are giving them money. I mean, Chris Cuomo broke it down, and Chris Cuomo used to be at CNN, and he really, really broke it down to where it made sense for the average person. And you guys have got to listen to this, because the way he explained it and the way he said it, I couldn't have said it better. It was amazing.
Big theme here at the DNC is that they're going to go after corporate gouging, and they're going to go after corporations, whether it's in taxes, largesse, loopholes. The RNC, we heard the same thing. They're going after the elites, the 2 sets of rules. Let me reveal a reality to you that has to be spoken to here, okay? These are the soldiers. These are the men and the women that go back to their constituencies and their communities, and they fight. They take time from their jobs. They take time from their families. Republicans and Democrats alike, that's what they do. They need to charge these people up. They need to be able to get them on board. But there's another reality that is literally looking down on them. Greg, look at the ring of suites, okay? This is not unique to Democrats. There is a game of money. When people talk about uniparty, we are strangled by the money reality in our politics. Those suites start at $500,000. You think there's like a teacher group up in there? You think it's like the Cub Scouts of Columbia County, South Carolina, that's up in those boxes? Some of them are lobbies and good things. The media boxes, you think they're free? Why do you think I'm on the floor? News Nation is not a broke company. Nexstar is a massive organization. We are corporate media. We don't have one of those boxes, because that's the game. You pay to play. Those boxes are filled with the same people that they say they're going to regulate. They are literally looking down on the faithful and being told, yeah, we're going to break down on them. We're going to make them pay their share. They paid $500,000, $700,000, $1 million, $1.5 million to have those seats. They get hotel suites that are probably gifted to the party. And the same thing is true at the Republican side. And they're going to take them down. They're going to change how it is. They are looking down from on high at the people who make the difference in their communities. And that is the reality of politics. And I had my producer walk around and show you those suites. Now, they're not all the same. They're not all the same. But the reality is, in 2000, they spent $300 million on presidential campaigns. 24 years later, you know what they're expected to spend? $10 billion. Do you know how much money Harris has raised in the last couple of weeks? Hundreds of millions. And that's success. A lot of it's small donor, a lot of it isn't. The most dangerous money in politics is now legal money because of Citizens United. You've got to know this. The idea that they can fight against it is almost laughable. It's almost laughable. So look and listen when you are told these things, Because I don't care what they promise you. Not here tonight, not at the RNC, not that Trump knows them, not that they don't own them. He did one of the biggest fundraisers I've ever heard of in my life out where I live. Millions of dollars a plate. That's the reality of politics.
I couldn't have said it better. He explained it incredibly, but it needed to be said. Because when we look at these conventions, we have to see who's paying for these conventions. Where's this money coming from? And what are they expecting to get from the money that they're actually donating? It's a fair question. When I think of Kamala Harris and Michelle Obama selling hope and Barack Obama selling hope, I've been telling you guys for weeks now, how do we keep missing the fact that Kamala Harris is in office right now? It doesn't make sense how the media keeps just trying to skip over that. Immigration right now is on her. The economy right now is on her. Inflation is on her. Biden is nowhere to be found. He made an appearance Monday. They got him the fuck out of Dodge. Oh, yeah. They gave him night one. They gave him night one and told him get the fuck out of Dodge. And who is running the White House? Who's running the country? But you had a CNN commentator give the hard truth to this panel, and in all of their faces, they just had this stunned look on their faces like wow, he really said that. But this shit he's about to say is true too.
In all these speeches, as good as they were, is that she's in the White House right now. Democrats have controlled the White House for 12 of the last 16 years. And for all of the talk about division and the problems in the country and people are hurting, Democrats have mostly controlled this country. Trump had it for 4. The Obamas and Biden had it for the rest of the time. And somehow it's still all Trump's fault, and somehow she hasn't been at the center of it. So to me, that's still the glaring hole in this campaign that hasn't yet been solved at the convention. How do you explain all of the problems that will be solved by the person who is currently in there for the last 3.5 years, who is supposed to already be working on solving it?
And I'll tell you how. You don't. You gloss over it. You change the topic to Trump because Trump has to be the topic, because they can't run on anything. They can't run on jobs. They can't run on that. Even the jobs report recently, in shambles. That's in shambles too. How do you miscalculate a jobs report? How does that happen? How do you sit up here? How do you present a report to the American people and then go back and say, oh, we made a mistake? Like what? That doesn't make sense. I can't even think to fathom how this would look if this was the other way around. If this was Donald Trump. How do you make it make sense? You can't tell people, oh, our economy's great. No, it's a shit show. It's not going to get better. It's going to get worse before it gets better.
Edward Lawrence live in the Grand Tetons, Jackson, Wyoming, now has the revision number on the job claim of the past 12 months. And what is it, Edward?
This is a huge revision down, 818,000 fewer jobs. This is basically the government's overstated the amount of people in the workforce. And even when you look under this, manufacturing was down 115,000 people. So this is a revision down, a significant revision down, the largest in 15 years that we've seen. And it basically says that the government has now overstated the amount of people who are working in this workforce. It shows weakness in the job markets over the past year that we didn't realize was there, but now we know is there. So again, 818,000 overall jobs down, manufacturing down 115,000 in this. And if you just wrote construction down 45,000. So these numbers are huge numbers in revisions down, Bill.
How do you overstate the job numbers by damn near 1 million? Come on. What are we doing? That's misreporting the job numbers by damn near 1 million. Now that makes me wonder, was that done by design? That misreporting, you're overstating numbers, that many jobs you overstated? No. Y'all motherfuckers is cooking the books. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. This is crazy. But I mean, but the American people have to make the decision on this. But you got idiots like Charlemagne running around talking bullshit. He thinks Trump wants to just drop out of the race, apparently. Let Charlemagne tell it. Apparently Charlemagne knows all now. I didn't know that. He just is the man to tell us exactly what's going on with Trump.
It was, you don't think Trump wants to be president anymore. I just want to play it. Here it is.
He does not want to be the Republican nominee no more. He is hoping that Republicans do him the way the Democrats did Biden. He wants to be put out of his misery. You can hear it in his voice.
You believe that?
100%. I think, what Nikki Haley said when she said the first party to get rid of their 80-year-old candidate was going to win this election. I think that's going to come to be true. And I think that, he's just over it. I mean, the guy did just get shot at, a month ago? And I think there's some PTSD involved. I think everything that you're seeing right now from Donald Trump is just a response to trauma. He's just staying busy because he absolutely has nothing else to do. Or maybe it's just his ego saying, hey, I need to continue to run because I want to stay out of jail. But I don't think he wants to be the nominee in any way, shape, or form.
What the fuck is he talking about? Are we serious? Are we serious right now? We can't be serious. How do you take this guy seriously? Charlemagne is part of the problem when it comes to the media. Charlemagne can't admit his biasness for a candidate. He can't. He can't just say, you know what? I just don't like that motherfucker. He can't say it. It's like, yo, if you feel that way, say it. Like Kamala said, say it to my face, even though J.D. Vance pulled up and she was nowhere to be found. You know how that goes. That's how that works. They say one thing and then they're tuck and tail and don't even want to take interviews, Kamala's telling people say shit to her face, but she won't even do an interview. How does that work? No time in front of the media at all. Yeah. How does that work? I don't know. I really don't know. But we got RFK today dropping out. Well, something like that. I mean, he's taking his name off the ballot in swing states. Other states he's still going to be on. But he gave his reasoning, and I think it's worth a listen.
But here in America, the DNC also prevented opponents from appearing on the ballot. And our television networks exposed themselves as Democratic Party organs over the course of more than a year in a campaign where my poll numbers reached at times in the high 20s. The DNC-aligned mainstream media networks maintain a near perfect embargo on interviews with me. During his 10-month presidential campaign in 1992, Ross Perot gave 34 interviews on mainstream networks. In contrast, during the 16 months since I declared, ABC, NBC, CBS, MSNBC, and CNN combined gave only 2 live interviews from me. Those networks instead ran a continuous deluge of hit pieces with inaccurate, often vile, pejoratives and defamatory smears. Some of those same networks and colluded with the DNC to keep me off the debate stage. Representatives of those networks are in this room right now, and I'll just take a moment to ask you to consider the many ways that your institutions have abdicated this really sacred responsibility, the duty of a free press to safeguard democracy and to challenge always the party in power. Instead of maintaining that posture of fierce skepticism toward authority, your institutions have made themselves government mouthpieces and stenographers for the organs of power. You didn't alone cause the devolution of American democracy, but you could have prevented it. The Democratic Party's censorship of social media,
he's cooking,
was even more of a naked exercise of executive power. This week, a federal judge, Terry Doty, upheld my injunction against President Biden, calling the White House's censorship project, quote, the most egregious violation of the First Amendment in the history of the United States of America. Doty's previous 155-page decision details how just 37 hours after he took the oath of office, swearing to uphold the Constitution, President Biden and his White House opened up a portal and then invited the CIA, the FBI, CISA, which is a censorship agency, it's the center of the censorship industrial complex, DHS, the IRS, and other agencies to censor me and other political dissidents on social media.
He cooked them, didn't he? Then he popped up at the Trump rally. You know, and Trump went ahead and made an announcement, which kind of shocked me as well. But I'm going to let you guys hear the announcement.
Soon after I can't even believe I have to say this, nearly assassinated in Pennsylvania last month, Bobby called me to express his best wishes. He knows firsthand the risks incurred by leaders who stand up to the corrupt political establishment. When you stand up, you bring on some trouble for yourself, but you have to do what's right. You have to do what's right for the country. I will tell you, we are both in this to do what's right for the country. That's one thing I can tell you. He lost his father and uncle in service to our country, and Bobby himself was subject to repeated threats to his safety during the course of his campaign while being denied protection by the Harris-Biden administration. And this is a tribute in honor of Bobby. I am announcing tonight that upon my election, I will establish a new independent Presidential Commission on Assassination Attempts. And they will be tasked with releasing all of the remaining documents pertaining to the assassination of President John F. Kennedy.
Oh, he's cooking now. But I'm going to go one step further. I think he should be head of the CIA. Because it has to come full circle. It has to come full circle for that moment. So yes, I would put him at the head of the CIA. That's a Cuzzo move. That's what I would do. But folks, this is an election year. RFK did something that Bernie Sanders should have did. Bernie Sanders was at the DNC, looked like he was still complaining. Talking about taking the money out of politics and this and that and the third. Well, then, motherfucker, why are you still part of the DNC? You want to take the money out of politics, but you're backing Kamala Harris, who was never voted in by the people. She never had a primary, and she won't even talk to the people. She won't even give interviews. So, Bernie, what the fuck are you even talking about? Bernie Sanders was one of those I kind of saw. I was like, this motherfucker's full of shit. We got to tax the billionaires. Yeah. We've got to make the billionaires pay their fair share of the taxes. And we've got to pay more for the working class. Y'all like that, huh? Y'all like my Bernie impression? I'm cooking, huh? I am cooking. What can I say, man? You know, but it's true. Bernie had a chance. He had a chance to sit up here and really get it popping, but he let Hillary push him out, and he didn't open his fucking mouth, and he took it across the chin and said, "Thank you, please give me more." Facts. He did. He did. He could have handled it better. But he didn't want to. Now, he's backing somebody they deemed the worst candidate of all time. She went from the worst candidate to the best candidate. Like, what? This doesn't make sense. They're the ones that said it. Don't let them fool you. They said she was the worst before the switch out with Biden. They said that. Now she can walk on water.
There are reports that say that you have the lowest approval rating of any vice president.
Well, there are polls that also say I have great approval ratings.
Swing voters don't like Harris. How big a drag is Kamala Harris on the ticket?
She's a pretty big drag. I think she was arguably Biden's worst political decision.
They don't like her. There's lots of reasons they don't like her.
Kamala Harris's approval rating is now at 28%, which is an historic low for any modern vice president.
We're hearing it from mainstream media, one outlet after another, one leak after another. That Kamala Harris is the worst vice president ever, the worst politician ever.
We don't see the vice president. What people are saying to me, and I'm sure they're saying it to you, where's the vice president? Some White House officials are feeling that she came off looking unprepared for inevitable questions about when she might visit the southern border.
We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I don't understand the point that you're making.
The point that Lester Holt was making was obvious to anyone else who was watching this interview, which is that the issues at the border are inextricably linked with the portfolio that she's been given.
The border is secure. We have a secure border.
Bidenomics is working. Prices have gone up. And families and individuals are dealing with the realities of that bread costs more, that gas costs more. And we have to understand what that means. That's about the cost of living going up.
He picked Kamala Harris to be his running mate. She was ranked and is ranked as the most liberal senator in the United States Senate. So he could have gone the other way, but he went to the left.
Joe Biden is running for re-election, and I will be his ticket mate. Full stop. Full stop. That's it.
Hey, everybody loves her, but nobody can name any of her policies, though. Nobody knows what she wants to do. They don't know. They don't know how to even articulate what Kamala's thinking because nobody knows. Nor do they give a fuck. Yeah. But we can magically cook the books with 818,000, damn near a million, 818, damn near a million, just round up to a million jobs between March 2023 and March 2024 that really didn't fucking exist. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I just don't know. It has to make sense somewhat. You have to think, okay, what is the next thing that they're going to do to try to pitch to us? We got twerkers, we got 25,000, which people think is free but ain't free. What's next? And before I go, somebody did ask Trump about, taking intelligence briefings, and he said he wasn't going to take them. And a lot of people were saying, what? That's ridiculous. He's denying intelligence briefings. No, wait, let's hear what he had to say about it.
Nominees traditionally get an intelligence services briefing when they become the nominee. Are you getting those briefings now? There was some controversy about that.
Well, I could if I wanted them, but I don't want them because, number one, I know what's happening. They come in, they give you a briefing, and then 2 days later they leak it, and then they say you leaked it. So the only way to solve that problem is not to take it.
Okay, not to take it. Well, I mean, you can still find out what's going on throughout the intelligence. I mean, an intelligence briefing is just a layout of what's going on. It's not the full stop details. For those of you that might not know, they're not coming in there telling presidential nominees every full thing that's going on. They're just giving them most likely an overlay, a layout of what could possibly be going on and kind of a current events thing. If I'm wrong, Pentagon Frank will check me, you know? You know. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, you know, I hope you guys had an amazing episode. I know we went over. Today, but I know for you guys, it was worth going over today, wasn't it? I've got to say needleandthreadsco.com. That's needleandthreadsco.com. Go check them out for the latest gear. Men's, ladies, get your custom stuff, get some accessories. Twan does it all, man. Twan's making new shirts damn near every other day at this rate, man. He's on the money. You can't knock him. I did not do the sexual chocolate intermission today. I apologize to you guys, you know, but it was so much information I wanted to get out, especially when it comes to when we talk about policy, because I don't want to be the podcast that only kind of partly talks about the policy. If we're going to have a policy conversation, let's have a fucking policy conversation, you know? So I hit y'all up with the sexual chocolate next time and maybe something special just to make up for it. But remember, needleandthreadsco.com. Use Chronicles for 15% off at checkout. I almost told him 50, Twan, you dig? You know. Yeah. But promo code Chronicles for 15% off at checkout. What can I say, man? We the best thing going, you dig?
I'm better than you, and you know it.
And we are out of here. You guys have an amazing weekend into next week. I know Labor Day's coming up. So, you know, get goals accomplished. That's what I always push. This is your boy Cuzzo, and we out.
Yeah, 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 yeah.